Hi, welcome to another edition of Resonate with Edgehill and Davis. I'm Owen Edgehill.
And I'm David Davis. Yay!
How you doing?
Yeah, good.
Good, man.
Good.
Good.
Exciting times, wasn't it?
It is exciting times. There were two good previous episodes, weren't there, with Vicky and
John.
And John.
Yeah.
Quite interesting.
And I kind of hope that our viewers were able to resonate with
Indeed,
both of them.
yeah.
Two very different characters.
Different characters,
Very
different topics,
interesting, yeah.
different topics as well, which was good.
Yeah, very interesting characters. But yeah, I just hope we can,
Yeah.
the viewers out there kind of appreciate that resignation. That they
Right,
have. Yeah,
right.
sure.
And hopefully we've got more guests to come as well, Dee.
We've definitely got more guests to come.
As we go forward, so that's cool. Hope all's well with you. Nice to see you all again. Cool. All right, Dee, let's get started, as we say. Have you ever seen the film High Noon? Have you ever seen the film High Noon with Grace Kelly and I forget the other guy's name? High Noon. It was made in 1952. So you were probably about 35 then, yeah? I had you then. So the gist of it really is about a guy, I think it's called Will, that was his character name, and, family man, with his wife and everything, and all of a sudden he went to become a marshal in this town. But before he became a marshal, in a previous life, he was involved in some gang, and he shot and put some guy away, some real hard nut, back in the day, called Frank Miller, right? So now that he became the marshal, the sheriff of this town called Edgehill, word got around that this guy, Frank Miller, was coming into Edgehill with his cronies to sort him out. And he was coming in at 12, because that's when the train came in.
There's definitely a meaning to this film.
There is.
We're going to get there. I know we're going to get there.
And that's why the film's called High Noon.
Just hang on to your hats.
And that's why the film's called High Noon.
Yeah.
But the gist of it was, everybody who he had around him, Dee, his deputies, his wife, his family, his friends, all said to him, look, Frank Miller's coming into town with his cronies and he's going to do you in. You need to leave. Everyone around him. So first his deputies made excuses in terms of why they couldn't hang around because they were in fear of Frank Miller. Then his friends, his wife even threatened to leave him because he was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stand my ground with this Frank Miller. Anyway, the gist of the film came, and I'm not going to spoil it for everyone, but he sorted Frank Miller out, right? But for me...
So he stayed?
He stayed,
okay.
But for me, on a higher level...
His wife leaving?
She stayed eventually. She came back to him once he'd sorted that guy out.
That's a film we don't need to see now.
No, you do need to see it because it's good. It's got what they call an esoteric connection. What I mean by esoteric is a secret connection. What's the story around it? Like you're saying, what's the gist of what you're talking about, Owen? Get on with it.
Yeah.
Right? and the gist is, are you ready for your high noon? Are you ready for your high noon? Am I ready for my high noon? We've all been through high noons in the past where we've had to meet a certain deadline, where we've had to go through something, and we've had to go through it on our own. And the point of the film, and the point where I'm getting at in terms of having this conversation with you, Dee, and everyone, is being in a situation where you're steadfast in terms of your belief on a particular thing, even though everybody around you are saying, you're mad, you're crazy, why are you doing this, why are you staying in this situation, to the point where the vast majority of people around you don't want to be around you, but you just stood steadfast in that situation and thought, no, I'm determined to, not in terms of being silly around it, but just having that peace of mind where you're saying, well, I'm not running from anyone. And not whether it's running from a particular situation in your life, an emotion that you're going through, a relationship that you've broken up with, I'm not running back to that situation. I'm going to stand my ground in this situation. So So the conversation I want to have with yourself and everyone is, A, have you had a high noon? And how did you cope with that high noon? As Gary Cooper, that's the guy's name.
Gary Cooper.
Gary Cooper, that's the guy's name.
Yeah, didn't they do a lot of films together, those two?
Yeah, they did.
Because back in the day, that was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Gary Cooper.
Right.
Right.
So I just thought I'd just bring it up in terms of, because it's an interesting film, but it's an interesting take on someone who's in a situation where he or she is not running from any the problem, they're staying with it and facing it. And so the strap line for me is, are you ready for your high noon? Am I ready for my high noon? Whatever that high noon is. It could be in your health, it could be whatever the situation is, but are you ready for it?
We could look at this, and I'm sure we've done it in previous episodes. We could look at this as setting up a podcast, and even though we say setting up, we're 20, nearly 30 episodes in.
Yeah, we're 30 in, yeah.
Crikey. And each time that we've gone through a procedure of having recording, filming, getting a new bit of equipment, whatever it may be, sometimes that situation has gone, you know, this is not going to work. You guys can't do this.
Right.
Can't be done.
Yeah.
And we could have quite easily, on numerous occasions, gone, that's it then.
Right.
At the end of the podcast.
Right.
We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's always something that's put in front of us that other people would go, why are you doing it?
Right.
If each time you go into your studio and you're trying to set this up or set that up, each time every time you've come to me as a friend, someone said to me, you've come to me about 6 or 7 times and said, this hasn't worked or that hasn't worked.
Right.
Why are you still doing it?
Yeah.
Because we believe in it.
Right.
Because we're passionate about it. Because that's what we've started. And you can't just stop because something has been put in front of you.
Right.
Something that when you think about it, it can be changed, it can be manipulated, it can work to your benefit as long as you kind of are open to that.
Right.
So we've had this in this podcast many a times.
Many high noons.
Many high noons.
Yeah, many high noons.
Just this podcast.
Yeah. But, Dean, it's a good point you make in terms of that analogy with what we're trying to do here. There are a lot of people out there who, as we keep mentioning, life is up and down and all that kind of thing. But there are a lot of people who don't realise that we've got to go through those high noons. We've got to face those things that we've got to face. Now, there is a caveat to that, and that is, for me anyway, it's pointless doing something knowing that you're going to have to face a high noon with it if you don't really want to do that particular thing. So in other words, what's the point in trying to go for a particular job that you don't like when you know you're going to have to go through that kind of high noon to go through the interview and this, that and the other and all that and put yourself through all that when you finally do get it or not, you didn't want it anyway.
Yeah.
So the high noon has got to be something that's worth it. He thought, the guy, Gary Cooper in that film, he thought, no, I'm not running from Frank Miller and his deputies. You know what I mean? Because
if I do, when do I stop?
Exactly. When do I
stop running?
When do I stop running? And even though the people around him, as you mentioned with our analogy, the people around him said, you're mad, you're crazy. His wife threatened to leave him because she thought he'd get killed and all that kind of thing. He stood steadfast and said, no, I'm not running. I'm not running. I'm going to go through it and I'm going to face it. I'm going to face that high noon. And I think that is the key for me, Dee, in all situations that we find ourselves in. So
is that kind of having the belief in yourself, in whatever situation it is, or having the belief in what you're doing, or a combination of the two?
I'd say a combination of the two. You've got to believe in yourself that you'll get through that particular thing, but you've also got to believe in the thing that you're doing that's worth doing, that's worth pursuing, that's worth going through that.
And finding what that bigger picture is.
Yeah, and finding what, because if you don't, he could have been in a situation where, because he didn't believe in himself and he didn't believe in what he was doing, he could have put himself, well, he did put himself at risk, but he consciously knew that he was putting himself at risk, but he knew the consequences if he didn't stay with it. Now, he could have been the opposite, where he could have just been, what's that, foolhardy, where you just go into something for the sake of it, and you're like, why did I actually do that? I could have got myself killed, or whatever the situation is. But he obviously was calculated with it. He realised that if I run away from this situation, I'm going to run away from 1,000 situations going forward, because life is full of high noons.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? To one degree or another, we're all going to be in a situation where we have to face something. Mm-hmm. And so if he didn't face that, he'd be in fear of everything going forward in his life. But the fact that he faced it, and the fact that we've all faced our high noons, otherwise we wouldn't be here, would we, today? Mm-hmm. We've all faced our high noons to one degree or another, makes us realise that when that other hurdle or that other high noon comes, well, hold on a minute, I got through that one, so I can get through this one. And for me, that's what it's all about. It's all about recognising, and I know I've said it in kind of an affirmation in terms of the film, but it connects well with a high noon, as in like, right, the clock's ticking, I've either got to stay with this, even though I'm in fear, or even though I'm a bit nervous, or even though I'm a bit, fretful about it, I've got to stick with it, because if I don't, it's going to be 1,000,000,000 times worse if I quit or for the next one. And I think that is the key. So, yeah, we've all got to do it, dude. We've all got to go through it. But again, most people don't realise that they've got to go through it, and that's why most people zoom back to the comfort zone within their lives. Whether it's comfort zone of coming out of a wrong relationship, going back into that wrong relationship, whether it's a comfort zone of not pushing themselves a bit higher and going for something a bit better in terms of a job that they could do, or in terms of their health. Most people always zoom back to that comfort zone and think, no, it's just too much for me to go through that high noon, to go through that situation. And I think it's quite sad, really, that they don't realise that they've just got to push themselves through it.
But then, again, it's easy to say, isn't it?
Very easy.
Because human nature will always lead us back to the comfort zone. Mm. Because the comfort zone called a comfort zone for a reason. We feel more, less vulnerable for sure, and we feel that comfort blanket wrapped around us. Yeah. But that protection, that close protection that we have, that's not giving us the self-confidence, it's not giving us the belief, it's not giving us the strength that we need to persevere, to overcome obstacles, to overcome those things that we don't really feel 100% sure about. Yeah. Like taking on, what was his name?
Gary Cooper?
No, the guy he was scared of.
Frank Miller.
Like taking on the Frank Millers of life.
Right, there you go.
Because that Frank Miller of life could well be a job opportunity.
Right.
And to succeed, to get that particular job, you've got to get a particular qualification. And if you haven't got that qualification, well then you've got to work for it, earn it, come out of your comfort zone, go studying every night or however long it takes to get the qualification for you to go, right, I'm ready to get this to get this job. I'm ready for this interview. Right. To hell with Frank. I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah. I can do this.
I can do it.
Because you've actually got yourself over the barrier and over the actual comfort zone element where you're just going to shrink back as a vile and think, well, that job's obviously not for me. Well, it could be for you. You're not going to know. Right. And if it's your dream job, if that's your passion, if that's your love, well, then go for it.
Go for it.
If it's the relationship, you look at that person out there and you go, wow, that's the person I want to be with for the rest of my life. Yeah. Well, go and speak to them. Well, no. That's it. Yeah. Why were you giving up?
Right.
You're coming out of your comfort zone for them to turn, because you're thinking they might turn around and say no, or I'm just not worthy.
Right.
When if that's the person that you think could be the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, isn't it worth coming out of your comfort zone?
Exactly.
And if
Yeah,
we
it is.
relate that, Frank, to everything we do,
Right, yeah.
we should be able to at least try our damnedest, try our best to be able to succeed.
Without a doubt.
Why would you not give yourself that opportunity when we're on this earth for that space of time?
Because I believe, Dee, personally, that the vast majority of people don't understand it. Like I never used to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could never equate that you've got to go through a bit of upheaval in your life in order to get what you've got. I could never equate with that because I thought life was happily ever after. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But it's only when the reality sets in and you think there are Frank Millers of this world, as you mentioned, whether it's a Frank Miller, a kid going through a qualification, whether it's a Frank Miller of somebody getting through some difficult times with regards to their health, whether it's a Frank Miller of just getting out of a relationship and being on your own for the first time in quite a while. There are different Frank Millers that we've all got to face.
Yeah.
But we can't retreat. You mentioned the comfort zone and the comfort blanket, and it's comfortable, and you're right, but the comfort zone is also comfortable, Dee, but comfortably crap. Mm-hmm. Because it's not what we want, it's not where we want to be. The comfort zone it's just because we're used to it. We're used to that comfort. And in most cases, it's not that good for us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's no point getting out of that comfort zone to do something that we don't want to do. And that's foolhardy.
Yeah.
So it's about thinking to ourselves, right, what do I want in life? Where do I want to go? And realising that I've got to face a Frank Miller in that scenario. I've got to face it. I've got to go through it. I can't run away from it. I've got to face it. And if I can face it, then the other Frank Millers that come around, then I can deal with it.
Simple.
I can deal with it.
Yeah.
And for me, Dee, that is the key. And like I said, the vast majority of people, and I include myself back in the day, didn't realise that fact. And that's why we stay in that comfort zone. That comfort zone of a crappy relationship. That comfort zone of staying in a job that it's not serving us. That comfort zone of our lack of positive health, whether physical, mental or spiritual. We stay in that comfort zone.
All the fact where you live.
Yeah, your environment. We stay in that comfort zone thinking that, you know, this is all we've got and it's too scary to try something else.
Yeah.
Which it is scary.
It is scary. It's a huge. You've moved from Bolton, where your friends, family, you've grown up. You know like the back of your hand. You know the people there like that. And what you've done is you've moved down south. You've moved and come all the way down to a south coast.
Right.
I don't know how far Bolton is away.
4.5, 5 hours.
But the fact is, you made that move,
Yeah.
and it must have been scary.
Yeah.
I've made that move.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
The amount of people that make, but then there's also a huge amount of people. I remember them saying to me, "Why? I'd love to be able to go down onto the coast and live there. Do it. Oh,
Right.
find a new job and
Yeah.
a new life, new friends, new this.
Right. Right.
You're not that far away anyway.
Right. And you've just hit the nail on the head, Dee, saying that in terms of moving to the South Coast and people around you saying, I couldn't do that. That's exactly what Will Kane, Gary Cooper had in that film. People around him, his deputies saying, Frank Miller, are you sure you want to tackle him? He's the same situation. And he was like, well, yeah, I'm going to tackle him because I'm not running away like you're going to run away. I'm staying with it. And all of a sudden, he got through Frank Miller, and now he's like, everybody's like lauding him and thinking, oh, you know what I mean, you're the champ and you're this, you're great. And no, I'm not. I just realised that I had to stand my ground
For the bigger picture.
for the bigger picture. And that's what we've all got to do.
Yeah.
Stand our ground for the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You know, go through that high noon to the point where we can look back and think whether we're passing it on to grandchildren or your children, oh, yeah, this is what I went through. Did you go through this? Yeah, I did. This is how I did it. And if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
So you're inspiring people around you as well, as opposed to giving up and not going through that high noon. So I think, to bring this thing down for a landing, Dean, everyone, I think, that's what we've got to do. We've got to face our high noons. I don't know about you, but I sense there's a lot of negative energy around at this moment in time. Now, I don't know whether it's due to the fact that we're in January and most people are feeling down, so there's a collective negative energy around everywhere. Or it's just, I don't know, it's just the way time is going, the world's going, I don't know. But I feel it. I don't know about yourselves, whether you feel it or not, but I can feel it. And it just makes me realise and makes me think that, that's a Frank Miller. That's a Frank Miller, Owen. Everybody's got the January blues. That's a Frank Miller. How are you going to get through it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Sooner rather than later, it'll be summertime, spring, and everybody will have another Frank Miller. Can I afford to go on holiday? And all that. And I've got to go there, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do that.
Yeah.
Life is full of Frank Millers, Dean. And all we can do is to realise that that is the case, and then stand our ground with it. For me.
I don't know about you guys, but I want to watch High Noon now. I want to watch.
It's a really good film. You mentioned it on a particular previous podcast about music, and how music is really it really gets to you. You know what I mean? It gets to your soul and everything, and it makes you, reminisce about certain things, and you reminiscing about your dad and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But also, films are as well. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's only recently, Dee, for me, when I watch a film, I'm not just watching the film, I'm watching the backstory of it. Like when I used to listen to music, all I'd be interested in is the groove, because I just wanted to get down, man, and all that, right? Yeah. And as I got older, I started listening to the words of a particular tune.
Dancing, by the way.
Yeah, it was. I started listening to the words of it, and I thought, all right, yeah, that connects, that means something. Yeah. And it's the same with this, it's the same with life and everything. And whatever we watched, that particular film, I watched that when I was a kid. But for some reason, when I was driving in, I thought, oh yeah, I'll bring that up and see what Dee thinks about that in terms of that particular film and the backstory around it, in terms of high noons and stuff, and can you face this and can you face that, and if you can, you're gonna be all right. So, yeah, for me, are you ready for your high noon?
Are you ready for your high noon?
That's the key. That's it for me, Dee. Let's say a few words as you usually do.
I hope you can all resonate with the high noon. Folks, thank you very much again for being with us. This is our season 2, which we are continuing to bring on guests that you can resonate with. And I'd like you just to kind of look at each and every episode and think to yourself, can I resonate with that? And if I can, great. Make a comment on our videos. Please, please, please share, like. Don't forget to subscribe. Remember, this year, 1,000 subscribers is what we're looking for.
Indeed. And if you don't want to make a comment because you don't, it doesn't resonate with you, tell us that as well.
Yeah.
Put that in the chat as well. It's all good.
It's all good. Because the more information we get from you, the more feedback, the more, 1, the type of guests that we can get on.
Yeah.
And 2, the topics that we can talk about.
And if you're interested in coming into the studio with Dee and I, then put that in the chat and we can arrange that as well. That'd be great.
I'd love to see it.
That'd be great. That'd be great. That's it from me, Dee.
That's it from me.
Be seeing you.